All right, it looks like most people have finished their do now. One more minute. One more minute on the do now. And keep working. Keep working. We got 1 minute left. How we doing? How we doing over here? Keep working. Last one. A little harder. It's all right. How we doing? Four people still working. Finish up. 30 seconds. Looks like most people have finished. First two questions on the do now, pretty much everyone's got it. Basic factor. Very basic. You know, when the number in front of x, squared is 1, it makes it much easier. Few people missed number 3. Let's just go over it real quick. The problem was 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. And we need to factor this to equal 0. We need to factor this, set each factor equal to 0 and so on. Right? Factors of 2, easy. 2 and 1. 2x. X. We know this is minus. That means different sign. Has to be different. I'm going to make both of these minus because it's easy to change a minus to a plus, right? Alright, factors of 15. What are the factors of 15? Right? 1 and 15. 3 and 5. Alright, we've got to try these, see which ones work. Right? This is a little harder. It's not crazy, but it's a little harder. Alright, so we know the plus has to be bigger. So we can go plus 5 minus 3. We do this, we're going to get plus 5x minus 6x. That's negative 1x. That doesn't work. Yoink, yoink. So why don't we try plus 5 minus 3? And if we do this, minus 3x plus 10x, that's going to be 7x. And when you do these, you have to make a list of the factors and see which ones work. Okay, we've done those. Maybe today we'll see a little shortcut for ones that are hard. This one wasn't so bad, the number was 2. Now, if you have the number where there's a whole bunch of factors, it can really become cumbersome. It can be done, but it can really take some time. Okay? So over the last couple of days, we've done factoring, solving quadratic equations when you can factor. Something easy. X squared equals 81. Piece of cake. Square root of both sides, you're done. Then easy problems. X squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. Real easy to factor. What two numbers multiply to 4 and have a difference of 3? Yesterday, we also did completing the square. Completing the square is a little more difficult, right? But if the numbers line up, if the numbers are neat, it's easy to do. Okay. Just as a quick review, let's do one of these. Okay, completing the square. Why don't we do x squared minus 4x equals 13. Okay, we can solve this using completing the square. If we just do this, subtract 13 from both sides, x squared minus 4x minus 13 equals 0, there's no factor that works. There's no whole number factor. There's no easy number that works. Right? The only factor is 13 is a prime number, 13 and 1, that's it. So, what we can do is what we did yesterday. We can complete the square. Got to change x squared minus 4x equals 13. Okay? We take this number in front of x, divide that by 2. Negative 4 over 2. Okay? In this review, we did this yesterday. We did a few of these for homework. I checked it when you guys walked in. It looked pretty good. But just a quick review. We're going to use this not a ton because there may be an easier way. Maybe we'll get to that. Okay. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Right? Negative 2 squared is 4. And remember, you put that in the calculator, don't forget those parentheses, or else it's going to jam you up. It's going to read it exactly like you put it in. It's going to square the 2, then make a negative. Make sure whenever you put a negative in the calculator and square it, you use parentheses. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. Some people keep making that mistake. Alright, so we got to add 4 to both sides to complete this square. Add 4, add 4. We got x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 17. This can be factored into a perfect square. X minus 2 squared equals 17. I can take the square root of both sides. X minus 2 equals plus or minus, don't forget the plus or minus, 2 solutions. Square root of 17. Right, this leaves us with a basic one-step equation. Subtracting 2 from x, add 2 to both sides. X equals, you could write it like this, plus or minus the square root of 17 plus 2. We usually write it the other way, which would be 2 plus or minus the square root of 17. It's the same thing. Right, it doesn't really matter which way we do it. Okay, so we did this yesterday, and it looked like we had a pretty good understanding. Because everyone did pretty well in the extra ticket. Homeworks looked good. Okay. What if we had one that's a little harder? You know, this sort of was easy. The number in front of x wasn't bad. These numbers weren't terrible. What if we had something like 5x squared minus 17x minus 4 equals 0. What if we had something like that? Okay. Break into groups. We got 3, 3, 4, and 3. I want you to take 3.5 minutes. I'm going to set my timer, 3.5 minutes. I want you to try to complete this one, completing the square. 3.5 minutes. Right, I'm going to work with this group in the back. If you have problems, ask someone in your group. If all 3 of you get stuck, raise your hand. Okay? You guys can work through it. I have full faith in you. But if everyone's stuck, please ask. I don't want you to take 3.5 minutes lost. If you get stuck, I'll try to get you back on track. We'll go. I'm going to be in the back. 3.5 minutes. Go. All right, grab whiteboards. All right, let's work. Let's work. That looks good. Looks good. Looks good. First things first, we got to write down this problem, right? Write it down on the whiteboard. When we're completing a square, first thing we have to do is 1. Okay, right. We got to get the coefficient in front of x squared to be 1. And that's the first thing we have to do. We cannot complete the square unless the coefficient in front of x squared is 1. So we got this equation. The coefficient in front of x squared is 5. Being multiplied by 5, what's the opposite of multiplying by 5? Right, divided by 5. You know, I like to use different colors when we grab a different color. Like the color. Divide this whole thing by 5. Right, now we have x squared minus 17 fifths x minus 4 fifths equals 0. Already, these numbers are getting ugly. We're dealing with improper fractions and fractions. This one's not going to be pretty. Okay. Next step, same thing we did on the board. What do we do here? What did we do on the board? When we completed the square, we took that b value, that number in front of x, what do we do? Right, we divided by 2. So what's negative 17x divided by 2? And remember, dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. What's negative 17x times 1/2? Right. Negative 17 things. Okay. Same thing we did up there. We got a square. Okay. It's getting ugly. I know it's getting ugly. I know. It's getting ugly. Minute left. See how far you can go. Even if you can't get there, keep working. This one's ugly. It's ugly. No doubt about it. So we got to square this. We get 289 over 100. So then we need to add, first of all, we got to get rid of that 4/5. We got to add that to both sides. Then we need to add 289 by 100 to both sides. So now we're talking adding and subtracting fractions, common denominators. We're going to end up with x squared minus 17/5 x plus 289 over 100 equals 369 over 100. All right? Paul, do you see how we got this? Right. I know, it's a linear square. It's a process. It's step by step. It's step by step. Don't try to eat the whole burger at once. Little bites. Step by step. All right, we're just trying to get through the step by step. Right. 3.5 minutes. All right, we didn't finish it. That's okay. Oh, can't go. All right, 3.5 minutes. It's up. How many groups finished? I got this one finished. Did anyone else finish? No. What'd you get? Okay. 17/10 plus or minus the square root of 361 over 100. All right, it's not wrong. It's not 100% right. 369 over 100. 369. Hey, why is that not 100% right? Before we move on, why is that not 100% right? Okay, right. It can be simplified further. Right? Square root of 100 we can simplify. 17/10 plus or minus the square root of 369 over 10. Is that right? I know I don't see a cell phone over here. I know I don't see a cell phone over here. Unless you get called to scrub in for surgery, no cell phones. I never want to see them. Unless you're getting called to scrub in, no cell phones. Right. Again, it's better. It's not 100% right. It can be simplified more. What perfect square can we factor out here? Right, 9. If you take a number and you add up the individual digits, if that sum is divisible by 9, then the number is divisible by 9. Every single time without exception. So we can factor at 9 out of this. 17 tenths plus or minus, and obviously the square root of 9 is 3. 3 square roots of 41 over 10. Okay. And we could just write 10-1 because make this all one big fraction. It's neither here nor there. Right. It's ugly. This one took a long time to do. Yes? Okay. This is the part in the infomercial where the person drops all the kitchen utensils and says, there has to be a better way. Well, we're in love. There is a better way. There's an easier way. Okay? That's what we're doing today. How do we solve a quadratic equation when factoring is not an option? And there's no good way to factor something like this. And we can complete the square. It's ugly. It takes time. There's got to be a better way. Okay? That better way is the quadratic equation. All right, we're writing this down. Don't write this on a whiteboard. Write it on paper. You're going to need this. And we're going to use this like crazy. Okay? This can be used anytime. Some people, they look at this and they say, piece of cake. I'll do 1,000 of those. Some people look at this and say, no way. This is not my forte. It's fine. Sometimes even these can be hard. I've done 1,000 of them. So I can look at this and say, okay, yeah, I know which one this is. The more you do it, the more you practice, the easier it'll be. But the quadratic equation, which we're about to do, you can be used for every single one. Okay? It's easier if you can factor this real quick and then solve. Now, we didn't go through solving these, but 2x minus 3 equals 0. I'm not going to go through solving two-step equations. We've been doing that since 6th grade. Everyone knows how to do that. I'm definitely not going to go through solving one-step equations. I know everyone can do that. Okay. But we can use the quadratic equation. Okay. What is the quadratic equation, you guys? Anything that's in this form, this general form, ax squared, I'll let the color code, plus bx, need one more color, plus c equals 0, we can use the quadratic equation. Anything that's in this general form, pretty much any quadratic equation. Doesn't matter if it's a fraction, a decimal, any of these we can do. Whole numbers are better, obviously. Right? Anything that's in this general form, we can use the quadratic equation. Right? Write this, yes, I will write this negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And that entire thing over 2a. And please write that down. Maybe more than once. Every time you write something down, it makes a connection in your brain. Very different than typing. And it's different than taking a picture of something. When you write something down, it activates your brain. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I'm sure everyone is very tired of hearing me say this. Alright, so let's, instead of just completing the square, let's plug this in. We're going to plug these numbers. We got this equation right here. I'm dying on the marker. Alright, A. A is 5, right? What's B? Maria, what's B? A is 5. That's right, negative 17. Can't forget that negative. Manny, what's C? Not 4. Negative 4. Thank you. Negative 4. Right? Because remember, this is the general form. They're all pluses. If you see a minus, then minus 4 is plus negative 4. Right? So C is negative 4. Right, so let's plug it in. Let's take these numbers, we're going to plug them in our formula. negative b, what's negative 17? Right, minus or minus is plus, 7,000. 17 plus or minus the square root of b squared. What's negative 17 squared? Or 17 squared, same thing. Obviously, when you square a number, it's always going to be positive. 289 minus 4 times 5 times negative 4. 4 times 5 is 20. Times negative 4 is negative 80. Minus negative 80. Okay? We'll get there. All over 2a. 2 times 5. All we have to do is simplify this. That's it. Let's do it. Right? 17 plus or minus the square root, and we're going to write out all the steps. Not skipping any steps. I don't want anyone to skip steps. Once we get good, we do this enough, we'll be able to go from step 2 to step 4. But let's not, until then, until we're not making any mistakes, let's keep going. So 289 minus negative 80. Thank you. Minus and minus is plus. Say it all the time. All over 10. Very similar to the answer we had. Right? Very similar to the answer we had when we just did. I erased it, but we pretty much had this answer. We simplify this. I'm running out of space. 17 plus or minus the square root of 369 over 10. Okay? The only thing we have to do is we got to simplify the square root. Same thing we did before. Instead of 369, we simplify that. I would write out another step, but I'm running out of room. Square root of 9 times the square root of 41. 3 square roots of 41. Every single time we do this, right next to the equation, I want you to write down A equals, B equals, C equals. Write it down. Okay? If you write it down, it's very hard to make a mistake as long as you write it down correctly. If you just look at it, it's easy to flip signs. Okay? I want you writing it down every single time. We want to try some of these? It's the same thing over and over. Let's try some. Right? Maria, you work with Javi, please. Okay? I'm going to be circling around. Okay? We got 3 of these. Okay? Okay? I handed out that card as you walked in. We got 3 of those. I want you to work in groups. Okay? It might not be a bad idea to do them independently and then compare answers. I don't want someone leaning on someone else for the answers. Like, oh yeah, I got that. Doesn't always work that way. If 2 people do work independently and get the same answer, it's usually right. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. The chance of 2 people getting the same exact wrong answer is low. Alright, I'm going to be working up here for a couple minutes. I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes. We're going to work on these problems. Okay, if you have questions, again, work in your group, see if someone can answer. Everyone knows how to work together. If all 3 of you have questions, please ask. But again, every quadratic equation has to be in this form. Alright, set equal to 0. Alright, and it says find the zeros. That's the same thing as setting it equal to 0. We've done that 1,000 times. Right, we write it. This is the general form. Write it out. We'll go from there. Alright, go. 7 minutes. Alright, we're looking good. Group work looks pretty good. Last thing, whiteboards. Grab your whiteboards. We're going to do this problem, 2x squared